otherwise that's going to be a waste of time. Right, okay, so I have a box, and I'm going to make sure that I stick this on the origin. And what I want to do is I want to be able to capture onto another surface. So I'm going to be capturing onto a plane. And I'm going to make my plane 100 by 100. And I'm going to stick that on the origin. And I'm just going to stick this above the box for the moment. And then I'm going to hide it. So what I want to be able to do is I want to be able to model on this box, but I want the box modeling to be able to translate and repeat onto the edges and the sides. So first of all, I need to convert this to an editable poly. That's odd. Box. That's better. Need to convert this to an editable poly. Okay. So ideally what I want to happen is when I move this or extrude a piece out, I want 8 other copies of it. So I know that this is on the origin, and I know that I want it to tile 100 units away. So what I'm going to do is there's a little toggle down here that says absolute space and local space. Basically this means that I can either move it to a position exactly in the world, or I can give it an offset. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this as an instance, and then I'm going to offset it along the x-axis by 100. And it sticks another object there. And then I'm going to do the same. I'm going to clone it, and I'm going to make a copy, and I'm going to offset it by minus 100. Okay, whoop-de-doo. I now have 3 objects. Then I'm going to go in and I'm going to select all 3 objects and I'm going to clone them. Again, it's going to be an instance. This time I'm going to move it minus 100. And then I'm going to clone them and I'm going to move them 200. Okay. So now, why the edit mesh? Oh. Let's just do that again for fun. Edit poly. Just to make sure you get that. Yeah. Right, okay. Let's make sure that we're on the origin. Yeah, it sneaked off. Right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to clone this. I am going to move it 100. I'm going to clone it, and I'm going to move it back 200. No. 100. Minus 100. Thank you. I'm going to clone this. I'm going to move it 100. And I'm going to clone this, and I'm going to move it minus 200. Okay, so now I have 9 objects which are all instances of each other, and they're all edit polys. And why did I go to all that bother? Because if I ring connect this, then you can see that all the other objects have also done the same thing. I guess you can tell where this is going. So anything I do now to this central object will get duplicated across all the other objects. So I can now build a panel. Let's just add a little bit more detail to it. Let's just do a quick insert and a insert with a bevel. And anything I attach to it will get duplicated as well. So let's just make a very quick, very shoddy nut. And I'm just going to duplicate it. I recommend that if you want precision, you use an array. So let's put them where I want them to be. And let's make them a little more attractive. Yeah, okay. In fact, I will modifiers, parametrics, taper. I need to taper this because on a normal map vertical lines won't show, so I'm going to taper a little bit. So if I go back to this and I can do an attach or I can do an attach list. I'm going to do an attach list because I know they're all called cylinder. And all of them have got cylinders on. And let's just add a little bit more nuance to this. So if I come over here, so I can start connecting this piece. Oh, come on there. Go away, go away. Oh, right. Whee. Into this piece. Okay, so I can basically kit bash with this one piece and it will duplicate onto all the other 9 pieces. And the advantage of this is that when I go back to my plane, and I'm going to do a quick hold. In fact, I'm going to save this because it's a bit destructive. So what I want to do is I want to grab the UVs out of one surface, and I want to grab the alpha map out of the surface. So in order to do that, I really want this to be one piece, not 9 separate pieces. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select this piece and I'm going to make him unique, and then I am going to attach a list, and I'm going to attach everything except the plane, and I now have one continuous piece. Once I've got that, now I can do a render to UVs. Let's just make this a little bit more interesting before I go any further. I'm going to put a subdiv on it. And I'm going to switch that to classic, and I'm going to change the strength. So that I get nice beveled edges, and I might have 2 iterations of that because hey, I'm only rendering it once. Okay. So now what I want to do is I want to do something called a render to texture. So I want to take the texture and I want to render it from this object. So I'm generating a texture that will be defined by this object, and this object's a square plane. So I'm going to go render, I'm going to go to render to texture, I'm going to set this to a projection, and I'm going to pick what I'm going to project, which is going to be my plane, no, it's going to be my box rather, which is all my geometry. I'm going to make sure that I use the existing channel because it's a plane, it already has UVs on it, and I want to use those UVs. So I'm going to use the existing channel, that's the only thing I need to worry about. I need to check the cage, this is the cage over here, and I just want to make sure that I reset the cage because the cage should be flat. In other words, there should be no geometry here poking through that flat plane. The plane is above it, so we're going to be projecting the texture from the top downwards. And I'm just going to add a normal map to begin with. And I'm going to make this 256 will do to begin with. And I'm going to render it out onto my pictures, I think. And I'm going to call this tile normal map, and I want it to be a PNG because I like PNGs. So I've got myself a normal map. It's going to be 256 by 256. I'm going to render. It's going to come up with some information, and it's going to look like this. This is a preview, it's not the output. You remember that I saved the file. Don't try and use this thing, don't save it because that's not what we want. Okay, so you can see that we have a preview. If I go into my folder, you can see that I now have a normals map. And because it's a PNG, the alpha's been cut out of it already. Now, in theory, this thing should tile. So let's just test it. Where did Photoshop go? This is when I either have success or failure. Select all, edit, copy, edit, define pattern, file, new. That looks big enough. That looks even bigger. Edit, fill, pattern, that one. Yes! It tiles. What's nice about this is that I can also bake out things like OA maps and stuff like that. OA is AO, God, dyslexia or what. I can bake out AO maps, which basically is ambient occlusion maps, and I can bake out any material maps that I want, providing I'm careful to ensure that the materials I place again are going to tile, and again they should do because my UVs will tile as well. So like you to have a go at that because That's quite complicated. There's lots to do.